Fish stock supports livelihood and enhances the food security and incomes of millions of people while supporting vital ecological systems. However, overfishing, pollution, climate change, unsustainable trade and globalization, and illegal and unreporting fishing are threatening the long-term sustainability of fisheries worldwide. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 14, that is known as SDG 14, highlights how marine resources are a crucial component of world's vital natural resources, which, if managed effectively, can continue to contribute significantly to the global community's sustainable development goals of reducing hunger, poverty in the world's most vulnerable populations. In every continent of the world, fisheries are a key part of the blue economy, and trade in fish and fish products play a vital role, since it is extensive with significant export flowing from developing to developed countries. Imports are dominated by markets of European Union, Japan and United States, and the People's Republic of China, whose trade policies have a significant impact on fisheries, trade and sustainability. Besides that, I will also describe the different fishing grounds all across the world and why there is a variation in the fish production or export and import. The first one is water temperature. Marine life is best developed in oceans of the high latitude whose waters are at temperature lower than 20 degrees centigrade. This is because the fish feed on minute marine organism called plankton, and the plankton multiplies best in colder waters. In the tropic, the warmer waters significantly inhibit the growth rate of the plankton population. Hence, the temperature and subpolar seas in the higher latitude often better fishing grounds compared to the tropics. The second one is important, that is known as ocean topography. So, plankton of all kinds are abundantly available in shallow waters. You might be aware of continental shelves, where they have access to both sunlight as well as nutrients brought by rivers. Hence, the most exceptional fishing grounds are found above continental shelves in the higher latitude. The third most important is ocean water mixing and upwelling zones. Plankton need both sunlight and nutrients such as nitrate and phosphate to be able to photosynthesis. Sunlight is the only available in uppermost layers. During photosynthesis, the nutrients are quickly used by plankton, so they are not available for long period in upper layer under normal circumstances. To escape this problem, the seawater needs to be mixed regularly to bring the nutrient-rich deep water up to the sunlight zone. Furthermore, in surroundings where atmospheric temperature are often colder than oceanic temperature, the top layer of the ocean are cooled by atmosphere. This increases the density of the surface waters and causes them to sink and therefore causes mixing. Nutrient deficient water sinks and nutrient rich water is upwelled. Hence, the cold and warm currents mixing zone, example Grand Banks, and nutrient rich cold water upwelling zone, for example upwelling near Peruvian coast, from fertile fisheries grounds. The first most important factor is the proximity to the fishing ground. Proximity to the fishing grounds reduces refrigerations and transportation cost. However, with the high mechanized modern travelers, proximity to fishing grounds is no longer a significant factor. For example, Japanese travelers venture into waters as far as Antarctica and Grand Banks. Second important factor is climate. The cold climate of high latitude makes refrigeration, preservation and storage of fish economical, where in tropics the warmer climate and higher humidity, fungal and bacterial attacks make preservation and storage more expensive. Hence, the commercial marine fishing industry is less viable in tropics. Now, the third important factor are ports. Shelters, inlets and estuaries coast makes ideal sites for fisheries, fishing ports and villages. Both the Atlantic and Pacific coastlines of the middle and high latitude in northern hemisphere are very much indented and are backed by strong relief. Here, ports exclusively for fishing industries are developed. The fishing ports have all the necessary infrastructure from processing to canning units. Fishing ports make the fishing industry efficient and cost effective. The fourth important component is capital. The commercial success of marine fisheries depends on the cost optimization with the help of efficient technology. Hence, a lot of capital is required for R&D. Mechanization and infrastructure, Europe, Japan, USA and Canada have the requisite capital and well-established financial services for the cost-intensive and risky marine fisheries industries. The fifth and significant factor, that is market, because fishes are used as food and raw material for fertilizers, lubricants, cosmetics, etc. Seals and whales are hunted for meat, fur and oil. Fish, fish meals and fish waste are widely used as animal feed and feed for aquaculture and as fertilizer for paddy fields. Fish oil also represents the richest available source of long-chain polyunsaturated fatty acids, that is known as 𝗵𝗔, which performs a wide range of critical functions for human health. Fish as a primary food source. Europe is a net exporter of horticulture product and a net importer of food grains and meat. Fish meat is the most affordable option in many countries like Norway, hilly terrain, ice-covered land, little scope for agriculture and dairying. Most of the population living along the coast. Just like Norway, Japan has a very dietary alternative to fish. Fish as an essential part of the diet. There is a great demand for fish along the North American coast, which are most inhabited by European settlers. With the rapid economic development in Asia since 1990s, fish is gaining a lot of importance as an expensive alternative to meat in the densely populated coastal regions. Apart from the significant, there are insignificant markets also in the southern hemisphere. In other words, I can say that the commercial fishing is not of prime importance in southern hemisphere. For example, Peru, Falkland Islands are an exception of this, where cattle rearing and dairying are more economical option, as I explained it in my previous lectures. Cattle rearing in pampas of South America and Eastern Australia, dairying in New Zealand and agriculture in South Africa, these are basically depending upon livestock. Now, if we analyze this particular component, employment is also very crucial, because lack of viable alternate employment opportunities in the primary sector since time immemorial has played a significant role in dependence of Japan and Norway on fishing industries. Japan has a high population pressure, hilly terrain and forest and very little cultivable land. Norway is mostly hilly and experiences long, harsh winter months. Hence, venturing into deep sea fishing has remained the most practical and feasible primary economic activity for these countries. This region extends from Iceland to Mediterranean shores, and pelagic, demersal and inshore fishing are all done on a highly organized basis for the European countries, especially the USSR, Norway, Denmark, Spain, Iceland and United Kingdom. Fishing is carried out all around the year in the shallow waters of North Sea and most vigorously exploited areas being the Dogger Bank. Springs is the busiest fishing season, but also the most hazardous because of the stormy weather. Casualties rate in the North Sea are higher than in any other major fishing region. The principal fish caught are herring, cod and mackerel. In the colder northern water, haddock, turbot and halibut, plessy and sole are also important. Farther south, anchovies, pilchards and sardines are the main species and some tuna are found. The Northeast Atlantic region, with an annual catch of around 9 million tons, is the greatest fish exporting region of the world. The European fishing fleets are highly mechanized. Trawlers are the most important vessels, especially for demersal fishing. Seiners and liners are extensively employed in the deep water fishing, while herrings, which make up the bulk of Europe's pelagic fish, are caught by dryfoots. In Iceland, fish and fish products make up over 90% by value of annual exports. Although Iceland has only about 5,000 fishermen, I can say about 2% of the population. They are the most efficient in the world, each catching 200 annually or more than 5 times as much as in any other fishing nations. So great is Icelandic dependence on fishing that since 1948 fishing craft from Berlin, Germany and Norway have been forbidden to fish in Iceland waters. It is estimated that prior to 1948, more than 13% of the northwestern European catches came from Icelandic waters. In 1958, Iceland extended her territorial waters, within which no other nations are permitted to fish, from 6 kilometers, in other words 4 miles, to 19 kilometers, means 4 miles to 12 miles. Iceland now claims an exclusive economic zone of 320 kilometers, in other words 200 miles, in which it allows only limited fishing quotas to other nations. Within this limit, however, fishing by Icelandic craft is also controlled and Iceland is attempting to rebuild overfished stocks. Norway, other countries that relish heavily on fishing, has also extended its territorial water, partly to protect its own interest and partly to reduce overfishing. Now I shall explain Norway's fisheries is one among them. Norway is the greatest fishing nation in Europe, accounting for almost 5% of the world's total catch. Fishing provides employment for 32,500 people out of a total population of 4 million, and marine products are important Norway exports. Herring, from 65% of the catch, they are fished around Bergen in spring and move north to Lofoten Island by autumn. The fjorded sea coast from Stavanger to Hammerfest, a distance of over 1,600 kilometers, are noted for cod fishing and mackerel, coalfish, whitefish and prawns. The greatest cod fishing area is off Lofoten Island from Torrending to Tormoso. Most of the cod are preserved in ice and exported wet to the Baltic countries. Salted and dried cod are sent to distant countries in Africa or to Spain or the USSR. Inferior or undersized fish are converted into fish meal for animal feeding or ground into fish manure, and capelin are caught in large quantities for these purposes. The Norwegians fish among the earliest people to sail to the Arctic and Antarctic water for whaling and sealing, and Norway was for many years the leading producer of whale oil. In 1967, however, Norway finally withdrew from whaling. The high cost of equipment and high running cost were no longer economic in view of the scarcity of whale, especially the larger species. After explaining Norway fisheries, let me explain you the British fisheries. Britain have always been a great fishing nation because of her favorable locations on the extensive continental shelf of northern Europe. Fishing for both pelagic and demersal fish is carried out all round the year. Trawling is done in the distant water of cold Arctic, Barents, Newfoundlands, Faroes and Icelandic regions. Trawlers operate from the leading British fishing ports of Hull, Grimsby and Fleetwood. They account for about two-thirds of the annual British catch, cod being the most numerous fish, then haddock and plaice. In North Sea and other waters at medium distance, vessels using drift or seine nets catch both pelagic and demersal fish. Herring is the dominant species landed. Inshore fishing chiefly for crabs, lobsters, prawns and shrimps is important, and many kinds of shellfish such as cockles, wings, wits are gathered. Oysters are also farmed, especially in Thames estuary and in Essex. Inland fishing is commercially insignificant, but fishing as a sport or pastime using rod and line is important. Angling is the most important sport in terms of numbers participating in Britain. The annual British catch amounts to about 1 million ton, the majority of which is demersal fish. Most of the fish is absorbed by home market, either distributed fresh through Billingsgate Market, one of the world's largest fish market, or frozen and packed in the ports, for example, Hull. The chief byproducts include fish meal, fish liver oil and fertilizers. Some cured fish is still exported to Europe, but this is largely offset by huge imports of canned fish, especially salmon and sardines. Although the value of British catch is still great, the importance of fishing has declined relatively to other sectors of the economy and to other fishing nations. This is partly due to overfishing in the north. Sea exclusion from Icelandic waters and competition from other European nations, particularly Denmark, in common markets joined 320 km special economic zone comprising mainly waters which surround the shores of Britain. So after explaining two regions of the world, now I shall explain the fishing in the rest of the Europe. The waters of southern Europe and of Mediterranean Sea are noted for sardine and anchovy fisheries. These small fish form a large proportion of catch in Spain, Portugal and Italy. They can be easily canned for exports or processed in many other ways. Sardines are also caught off the coast of southern France and are marketed through the town of 𝗵𝗂 in the Rhone Delta. Pilchards, mackerel and other pelagic fish are caught in coastal waters of Mediterranean Europe. Tuna is caught in large number of the Atlantic coast of Spain and Portugal, and also in Mediterranean of Sicily and Sardinia. The large and valuable fish is usually canned. On the whole, fishing in southern Europe is on a smaller scale using smaller vessels and less efficient technique than in major fishing nations. Nevertheless, Fishing is an important occupation in both Spain and Portugal. The Portuguese have a long seafaring tradition and have long participated in fisheries far from their own shores. For example, the Grand Bank. Spain has only risen to prominence recently relatively. This is the result of the government policy which has improved fishing ports, processing and transportation facilities and encouraged the use of modern vessels and equipment. France is relatively unimportant despite the long and often intended coastline. Agriculture opportunities in most parts of the France have lessened interest in the sea. Though France participates in North Atlantic fisheries, the chief ports being Boulogne and 𝗕𝗑𝗆. Inshore fishing is particularly important in Brittany and oysters are a major product. Denmark, Germany, Sweden, Belgium, the Netherlands and Poland all participate in North Sea and Baltic Sea fisheries. Pelagic, demersal and inshore fishing are carried out and the chief ports include Belgium, Flushing, the Netherlands, Copenhagen, I can say Denmark, or Lübeck in West Germany, Malmö, Göteborg in Sweden. These are the best example of such type of fishings. The 𝗪𝗪 of Jutland, Denmark has notable 𝗪𝗪𝗁 hatcheries and a number of European countries have taken to fish cultures. Within 2 decades of the discovery of North America by Christopher Columbus in south and John and Sebastian Cabot in the north, fishermen from many parts of the Europe began to frequent the waters of Northwest Atlantic from Newfoundland to New England states. This was traditionally the world's richest cod fishing region, though catches have declined as a result of overfishing and borders Canada and United States. The same incidents took place. The regions had 8,000 km long coastlines with a fishing area of no less than 5,20,000 square kilometers centered on the Grand Bank. For more than 450 years, the Newfoundland fishing grounds have been visited by the fishing fleet of Britain, France, Spain and Portugal, and these have now been joined by those of Japan and USSR. Besides cod, herring and mackerel are caught in the surface water. Halibut, haddock, hake and flounder in the deeper waters. Inshore fishing for shellfish and crustaceans is also important and serves a vast market in the urbanized northeast of United States of America. Fishing and marine industries are an important sector of the economy of the maritime province of Canada. In Newfoundland, fishing provides employment for the vast majority of the population. Fishing in all its various forms, fresh, cured, preserved or canned, is sent in large quantities to maintain America or exported to Latin America, Southern Europe and North Africa. Modern trawlers and drifters equipped with trawls, seines, drift nets and long lines exploit the banks and coast waters of the Northwest Atlantic to the fullest extent. But for the abundance of plankton and marine life, the region would have been desperately overfished long ago. In fact, it has survived for over 400 years, but the stocks have now been dangerously depleted by the intensive fishing methods of recent years. So after explaining the different factors associated with fishing industry, you may understand that natural as well as anthropogenic factors both are important in the development of fishing industries. But role of government is also very crucial, because when we are discussing fishing industries at large scale, the rules and regulations related to import and export, the relations of two countries to import, as well as how are we consuming, is it in a sustainable way or is it crossing the limit, as I gave example of few regions. That is also very important. And as in each and every lecture, I always emphasize upon a balanced consumption of any resource. This balanced consumption or sustainable consumption is also applicable in the fishing industries.